The great ballistic debate, high velocity, or do you want big, heavy rounds? Well, I did a little bit on both here for practical purposes. I did one on what I would call screamers or hot rod rounds, and one on thumpers. I did these and already put them out. They were put out on Patreon. But I thought it was some good content. So I thought, as an idea, I would take part of both of those episodes. One on the screamers, the high velocity rounds, but still with manageable recoil. We're not talking about a .338 Lapua. We're talking about something that the average guy could go out and shoot and practice with and enjoy, right? Unless you're a masochist, I don't think you're going to enjoy shooting a .338 Lapua in what I would call a practical weighted rifle, like meant to be shot off the shoulder, not off a bench and not off your belly, but one that you can shoot in the classic shooting position, standing, sitting, kneeling, prone, and shoot quite a bit. Anybody can shoot a big caliber once or twice, but go out for a practice session. Manageable recoil, screaming hot velocity, but manageable recoil. And on the flip side of that, heavy hitters, medium bore, heavy bullet, but still with manageable recoil, meaning moderate velocity, what I would call a thumper. So I'm going to put this content together, and I'm not going to give you all of it because the episodes were done separate and put on Patreon, and they should get a little bit more since they do more to help out the podcast. If you want those in toto, consider going to the Patreon page. There should be a link in the show notes. Not just for that reason, but to support Patreon. Whatever you do for work, you probably appreciate getting compensated for it. I do as well. If you'd like to support, veteran-owned, small business, American-made, and if you want some cool insider-only content, like some of the stuff you're going to hear today, just looking at my main page here, there are 2,535 posts on Patreon. With that, guys, hope you enjoy the content. Welcome to the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, ballistics the right way with Almighty God at the center, biblical, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. I've been toying around with the idea of like a really nice hunting rifle. And now, don't get me wrong, I have really nice hunting rifles. I have really nice rifles. I have a SCAR 17. But I'm talking about like I have a lot of good general purpose rifles. Like I have a really good Ruger guide gun, 30-06. Will kill anything on the planet. Oh, it's a bit heavy. It's a bit overbuilt for what I need it for most hunting in areas that I know and where I'm not planning on going on a multi-day live in the bush. I'm just going out and want to maximize my chances on a elk or a mule deer in an area that I know. In general, in a more open landscape where, it's large rolling hills, and I still like to spot and stalk hunt, and I still like to take snapshots and shooting offhand, but the opportunity for longer shots is a significant minority, not majority, but minority of those shots. And it maybe maximize my chances for those, and to just have a really nice upscale hunting rifle, because if you guys can't tell, I love hunting. I went several years, like Marine Corps and stuff, not hunting animals. And I just really, really love hunting. I love so much about it. I love being out in the wilderness with the Lord. I love the bounty that He provides. I love so much about it. I love the test of man versus nature, man versus beast. I love it. And I'm blessed to be working at a job now, full-time shifts, where I'm making decent money and I'm working a ton, which is not my favorite. But if I am, I might as well put that into something that I'll actually use and enjoy. So for all those reasons, I've been considering an upscale, like a nice hunting rifle. Not like, tens of thousands of dollars, which you can get there, but just a really good, solid, kind of top tier, let's call it that, like not a budget gun, but like a top tier gun. And which one of those that might be is probably for a different episode. But I'm going to talk about some top choices in calibers. For deer and elk, and I'm not concerned about grizzly bear. Yeah, I live in a grizzly bear area, but people are like, oh, carry a 44 mag or a 10 millimeter for bear defense. Well, a 30-30 is a powerhouse compared to a 44 mag and a handgun, or 10 millimeter. It's a powerhouse. All of these cartridges that I'm going to talk about are way more powerful than a 30-30. So simmer down on that. Like, I'm not super concerned about it, and I don't know why you would assume I wouldn't also have a handgun. But for maximizing mule deer, elk, antelope, black bear, if I ever do draw, a bighorn tag or a mountain goat tag, that would be fantastic too. But that size of game, so elk and down. Moose, if I ever draw a moose tag, that's phenomenal. I'd probably just take the 30-06 unless it was real open country, but you get the idea. That kind of more open country, because I've moved areas and I live in a fairly open area. It's right, which I love, it's right on the precipice of the Rocky Mountains meeting the Great Plains. So I can choose real dense stick areas if I want to, but I have decent rifles for that, or more open rolling hills where I can literally see, 20, 30 miles in a stretch. Not that I'm obviously going to shoot that far, but you get the idea. So calibers for that. And a big caveat is recoil in a hunting weight rifle. This is a rifle I'm going to carry a lot. So around 7-ish pounds for the rifle is about max that I want. I've got lighter rifles. This is not supposed to be a mountain alpine rifle. I have one of those. I have the Kimber Adirondack, my old guide gun that weighs under 5 pounds. It's phenomenal for that. So anyway, to the calibers. What calibers am I considering? I don't know if I should put these in number, but high on my list is 257 Weatherby Magnum. 257 Weatherby. It's a Magnum, but it doesn't have the recoil. I ran the numbers. It's in the 20-ish pounds range. It's in the 308, 30-06 class range. And I do believe that, with copper bullets, which is a thing I'm really intrigued. Not that I'm dedicated to copper bullets, but for a high-end, hunting rifle, I think copper bullets make a lot of sense. It's, pushing, weight of bullets that I would hunt deer with at 4,000 feet a second, without a lot of recoil. And the way I like to hunt, I'm not one for dialing dope and all this stuff. I think you lose more opportunities on game than you gain because it just takes so long. A lot of times you miss your shot instead of just getting closer. So I'm not a big fan of that. So for max point blank range, 257 Weatherby is hard to beat. You're looking at weight ranges from, 75 grain, 85 grain, 87 grain is real common, to 100-ish grain. You can get heavier, but I don't think that I would. So, that's a good... I've often thought that, the perfect weight range for those kind of animals is between 100 and 130 grain. And that's with traditional bullets. Yeah, a lot of stuff's 150 grain, but I think that's more than you need. There's nothing wrong with it. I do most of my hunting with like 150-ish grain bullets, but I think it's more than you need. If you cut that back to 125, 130 grain, it would do just as well, maybe better. They're just not as common. So I've often thought that. And with copper, they punch above their weight class. So I wouldn't, 100 grain copper I would consider up to 130 grain regular bullet anyway, like 130 grain 270. That'll kill any of these things I'm talking about. So why not get a 257 Weatherby and have it push those bullets faster? Yeah, it's a cool cartridge, and it doesn't have a lot of recoil. So you get kind of hot rod performance without the hot rod recoil. Issues with it is it's not crazy common. I was surprised there are factory loads that aren't Weatherby, because a lot of Weatherby ammo is like $100 a box for 20. So there are other options that aren't Weatherby factory loads. So there is that. That's pretty cool. Now, other things to be aware of. I would probably reload for this. Brass is also not cheap and easy to come by. It's kind of its own special thing. So there is that issue. But it's a hot rod. The other one that I'm considering is talk about hot rod. It's the newest of the hot rods. It's the 257 Weatherby came out like 47, 48. So that would be like your old classic kind of muscle car. Not even muscle car. Muscle cars weren't even a thing till way later. But old classic hot rod. And the new one would be 277 Fury, which is like the brand newest generation of cartridge. So it's like the brand new, it would be like buying a brand new hot rod. And the 277 Fury, you guys are probably familiar, is that you get the bimetal case, you load it to 80,000 PSI, which would let you get impressive velocities. You can shoot it out of a longer barrel, but even down to 16 inches, I don't think I want a 16 inch. I want probably a 20 or longer inch, which would even give me more velocity. But 80,000 PSI, guns are plenty strong enough to handle 80,000 PSI. The hang up in days of yore was the brass. The brass could not handle the 80,000 PSI. And the part of the brass that's most susceptible to that is the back. So the back of these cases, the bimetal ones anyway, are steel. And since the front part of them, the part that you resize and everything, is going to be brass, they shouldn't give you the reloading issues that, 7mm backcountry will. It's a cool cartridge. It's 308 in size. It's kind of a hot rod. It's a 277 or 270 caliber. So all your classic 270 bullets should work in there. And again, coppers, you can get these coppers down a lot lighter than I would hunt with traditional bullets and get some crazy high velocities. Advantages, short action. Disadvantages, that brass, not crazy easy to come by. The bimetal case, once you have it, I don't think it'll give you a lot of issues. Also, the factory ammo is really hard to come by. Harder than 257 Weatherby, if you can believe it. They make a few hunting loads, but none of the hunting loads are ones that I actually want. They're 150 grain, super long, slick, high BC, don't care. The BC for the distances I'm talking about I don't care. If you're shooting inside BC or inside 300 yards, BC is not the remedy for your problem. If you're shooting inside 300 or even 400 yards, you want speed and velocity. You don't want BC. BC doesn't take over until 500, 600, 700 yards. And you probably know how I feel about that as far as ethics and time of flight go. So, yeah, I don't care. The two hunting loads I'm aware of are super long, high BC bullets. Don't care, don't want it. If I was concerned about that, I wouldn't even be considering any of these cartridges I'm talking about. So, but with light, fast, solid coppers at 80,000 PSI, that would be a good caliber. Pretty cool. It's also available in the SIG Cross. Now, the SIG Cross doesn't look like a classic premium hunting rifle, but it is. I'm going on this trip. I have two rifles in the back for this trip. One's a Ruger Scout, and one is the SIG Cross. The SIG Cross, I just shoot it so well. I don't know. It's more than the sum of its parts. It's so easy to get hits with. It's hard for me to not take it. It's light. It's handy. Except for and I have an extra extractor I keep in the gun, but except for the fact that it's a push feed, man, it really is just a phenomenal gun. And even then, it's got, as far as extractors go, it's got a pretty beefy extractor, highly supported. It's a phenomenal gun. Not what I was originally thinking of for a upscale hunting rifle, but it certainly is that. Even though it doesn't look like it. It looks like an AR, a bolt action AR, but it shoots just so well. It's so smooth. It just points well. It handles well. It's well balanced. So I love everything about that. So also they have easy change barrels. So if I decided later I wanted something else, I could get a different barrel for it and run it in there, as long as it was a short action for that. So that is intriguing. Not to get too much on the platforms, but it also comes, there are traditional looking or kind of traditional looking, bolt action rifles now chambered in 277 Fury. So that wouldn't mean that I had to get the Cross, although it'd be hard not to. The other one that I'm considering is probably the most well balanced and best all around. I also was thinking, if you guys like that, you might like one on Thumpers. I'm going to do a brief outline, maybe get into some details, some sub-points here, in case it never does become, because I've got way more ideas than I have time for episodes. Thumpers, and I'm going to do the same criteria. I'm going to talk about Thumpers. I think that you can manageably shoot in a manageable weight rifle, let's say 7-ish pounds, a rifle that's meant to be shot off the shoulder, off your hind legs, not off a bench, not off a rest, not in a vise, not in a lead sled, right? So no no 577 Nitro Expresses, no, what's ridiculous? No 378 Weatherby Magnums, but like manageable recoil. The one that epitomizes this for me is the 35 Whelen. I've never owned a 35 Whelen. I have heard, though, that it is more mild and more pleasant to shoot than the sadistic 300 Win Mag. And it's a thumper. And by thumper, let's use a scientific formula of thumping, which is heavy grain bullet weight, fairly large frontal diameter, at a moderate velocity. I'm going to call that a thumper. So 35 Whelen comes to mind. You can shoot, if you're hand loader, you can load way down or way up if you want. But you're generally talking historically, when I think 35 Whelen, I think 225, 250 grain bullets. You're looking at 2,600 feet a second. It's a mild velocity, heavier grain weight bullet. It's a thumper. It's a good thumper. It's got good frontal diameter. It's 35 caliber. It's kind of what I think of as a thumper, a 30-06 necked up. If you want a little bit more bullet weight. Now, you can with a regular 30-06, and I do have some 220 grainers that shoot rather well. That's kind of historically. If you want a thumper in a traditional caliber, you go with a 30-06 220 grain core lock. It's just because of that mild velocity, they tend to stay together well, but they still mushroom. I would have no problem hunting anything in North America up to and including brown bear with 220 grain 30-06. But if I was going to step up, I probably wouldn't crank up the velocity and go to 300 Win Mag. I'd probably crank up the bullet weight and diameter and go with a thumper. I'd go with a 35 Whelen. Now, one that is often forgot about, I think because it's not standardized, would be the 338 06 or the 338 OKH. I think that's the acronym, OKH. It's kind of a wildcat. I don't think it was ever semi-standardized, but instead of necking up to 35 caliber, you neck a 30-06 up to 33 caliber, 338 caliber, which, again, will give you more mild, manageable recoil than something like a 338 Win Mag, which is a lot less efficient. So, those would both be thumpers, the 338-06, the 35 Whelen. But if you're talking about a thumper compared to your classic lever action 30-30, it's going to be the 35 Remington. And I love this cartridge. I don't really have a good reason to, I just do. Because there's really nothing, Pat brings this up in the chat all the time, there's really nothing that you can't kill east of the Mississippi with a 30-30. And fair, but sometimes you want a thumper. And if you're thinking 30-30 but a thumper, I think 35 Remington, because it's roughly the same, but you're launching a heavier bullet. Generally, the classic one for this is a 200 grain core lock, and you're shooting it at moderate, chugging along velocities. You're not breaking your shoulder. It's not going to be hard to shoot. Known in certain circles for being good on black bear and whitetail deer, especially if you're getting different shot angles, shooting on the run, all those kind of things. The 35 Remington, it's been around a long time, and it isn't being chambered, I don't think, in anything currently right now, but it was chambered for a long, long time, and I hope that Marlin brings it back in something in stainless steel. What else? If you want to talk about a real man's rifle, a bolt action, and a shorter cartridge like that, I'm just kidding. But you might think of 308 is a good round, and you can hand load heavier bullets. You can hand load 200 grain hot cores, and I've done that going back a long way. But really, 308 does best in 150, 168 grain, 175 grain is pushing it, 180 grain, you're really giving up quite a bit. You're better off going with the 30-06, in my opinion. But you can step it up with that same basic case in the 338 Federal. And I've never had one of these, but it's kind of the same thing as the 338 OKH. It's a 308 necked up to 338. So you're going to get that 200-ish or heavier grain weight bullet. And since you have more of a larger bore, it's going to do better than if you just shot a heavier grain weight bullet in a 308 out of similar, all of the things being similar, they can't be equal. It's going to do a little bit better with the heavier grain weight bullets, even if you're using roughly the same amount of powder. And I know that's kind of hard to understand, but it has to do with the efficiency and the burn of the bigger bore. you're going to give up some ballistic coefficient, the term that everybody likes to sprinkle on everything nowadays. But inside of 300 yards, BC just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So if you want a thumper, the 338 Federal. It's kind of a thumper and a short-action, mild-mannered cartridge. Everybody's favorite thumper, the 4570. Don't worry, I didn't forget about you. Anyway, with that, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this episode on just thumpers. Again, maybe it will or will not become a whole episode on gunfighter life, but hopefully you enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate all that you do. Tactical verse of the day: you shall not give back to his master the slave who has escaped from his master to you. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day.